Earlier on, I had mentioned about the Vision 2060 that we'll be talking about in this hour. Many thanks indeed for joining us. I'm Ben Troy Njue, and I have a panel of experts here. But before I introduce my panel of experts, we're talking about Vision 2060, but we will be looking at the hits and misses for the Vision 2030 that was established more than 20 years ago. And we look at maybe what can we borrow from Vision 2030 heading to Vision 2060. If you do not know that the official launch will be done by the President tomorrow from beginning morning. Allow me now to introduce my panelists, beginning from my immediate left. We have a seasoned public policy analyst and also a political pundit, Leonard Kafafa. He's also an aviation expert. Karibu sana bana.
Asante sana Ben.
Just next to him, we have engineer Jackton Mwembe. Apologies, Mwembe. Jackton is an engineer and also a public policy analyst and governance expert. Karibu sana. It's been a while.
Asante sana, Troy.
And just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is also a governance and leadership expert and also a political commentator. Gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
Good to see you. It's been a while. I haven't seen a number of you. But it's a good thing. We are talking about Vision 2060. But before we do that, allow me just to let's point out what is currently happening in Naivasha. And my colleague Abdiaziz Hashim is currently keeping tabs with what is happening there. If you do not know, that ODM and the UDA parliamentary group that is being spearheaded by President William Ruto. From what we've heard since yesterday is that, I'll begin with you, Leo, we will be looking at broad-based we are looking at the broad-based government, which now wants to go into elections together 2027. I would like you to pick your mind in regards to this pact.
Thank you, Ben. The pact, as you're rightly putting it, is geared towards the elections of 2027. And we've all followed the news, and we've seen that formations are coming together now.
Yeah.
And this is around the time formations ought to come together, really. I mean, we are exactly a year to the elections of 2027.
Yes.
And we know, actually, from precedent that no single party can go it alone in this country.
Yeah.
There isn't a party big enough to win the elections on its own. Parties have to come together, either 2 or 3 parties or even more, to form coalitions of sorts, so that they can go into the elections as credible competition.
Yeah.
So the government of the day, that is the UDA, or rather the KK administration, has had a rapprochement with the ODM party. And ODM, if you remember, in the last elections were their biggest adversaries.
Yes.
So there is a rapprochement between the two of them, and the two of them are now working together in that broad-based arrangement, and it looks like they want to formalize it, so that going into the elections, they have an agreement basically about power sharing, about sharing of positions, about the responsibilities of each side. So that is what is happening at the moment in Naivasha.
Jackton, I'm looking at the pact, what the president talked about yesterday, and how the body language that we saw the members of parliament exhibit. The reason being, we have seen the mergers and pact being done, big ceremonies. If you remember TNA and, was it TNA and, to form Jubilee, TNA and URP in, I think, 2013. There was a lot of pomp and color, but we didn't see that yesterday. So from where you sit, is this an alliance of ideology, interest, or even some political survival?
Thank you, Troy. From where I sit, there's nothing new that's going to come out of this. We have seen coalitions being formed just prior to the elections.
Yes. And
this is not going to be very far from it. So with pomp and, whether it's cool, what happens is that we are looking at people who are treading carefully, so that when the right time comes, that's when they'll be able to face the people. There's a bit of a challenge from the ODM side, and therefore it cannot be looked at as a new thing. And the way it has to come out to the people of Kenya, they have to make sure that their house is in order, because right now there's no unity. So UDA is just trying to come together with this party, because it's a pact that they started together through the coalition with the coalition government. Yeah. But we are looking at a scenario where the ground is not certain with either coalition, whether it's the opposition or is the broad-based government. So they have to tread carefully, because there is going to be a shift, because the ground has actually shifted in terms of even the voting.
Yes.
You saw 2024 what was happening with the youths.
Yes.
Young people, they are looking forward to taking up the government, and they would be able to go into someone or support someone who will be able to look into their interest. And I believe this is going also to come in the vision that was, the Vision 2060, which came up. What is the role also of these young people in participation? Well, how are they being engaged in the implementation and also the making of the vision?
Yes. Some good information from engineer. But Doc, I'm looking at UDA and ODM. Both, they want not to merge per se, but more or less they want to go into the 2027 election together. But they are both fractured. This is the reason. UDA has lost a number of governors, has lost a number of members of parliament, whom some have decided that UDA is not tenable again. Let's look at ODM as well. It's more or less like a split orange or half orange, because there's the Linda Mwananchi faction, which initially was part and parcel of ODM. The two parties are likely to sit down, because they started a 10-man committee to also look at things like manifestos, also look at ideologies. And we know very well politics is a game of interest. Who is the most likely to benefit from this arrangement?
Ben, thank you very much. First, I think it has been long.
It's been a while.
I think it has been a long time. If I dive into the current arrangement of ODM and the UDA broad-based government and preparation for 2027, there are quite a number of things that needs to be considered before we just conclude and say ODM will have this stake and UDA will have this stake, and they'll go in together. What are those things? One, first and foremost, there is no solid leader for ODM who gives direction in regards to the party's future. Reason being, before this party had a solid leader who will make a decision, he could leave you and he could pick you. And on that note, he will propel the ideology of that particular party for that purpose. UDA solidly has a one-man show. Like the president is the party leader, and he knows where his party's leadership weakness are, and he knows where his strengths are. Now, there's one phenomenon that sometimes people lose a seat simply because they think of a situation where the current people who are in office are the ones who are going to make decision for 2027 and who should be elected. That is completely wrong. The party shouldn't be for the current leaders. The party should be for Kenyans. And it is the manifesto and the ideology of that particular party that will going to lead the process of who becomes who in this coming election. If that particular point is lost, and the president concentrates on the current members of ODM who are holding offices, and the current members of UDA who are holding offices, for purposes of his 2027 re-election, he's getting wrong. And that's why I'm thinking, leaders, perfect. We can talk about issues of national concern, issues of, which is emerging now. For example, the 2030, Vision 2030 and beyond that 2060 that people talk about as the current leaders. But who becomes next leader in the next election should be determined by the people. And if the president decides on people who are pulling their agenda, and he makes a coalition or an arrangement that he thinks will going to elect them and bring back the president, I think that's wrong. For example, we have, for example, in Mandera West, let's not even talk about a lot of other places. In Mandera County, we already know the leaders who are currently there will not be there 2027. Community has already decided. They are non-performers, they are corrupt, and they never did what they were expected to do, particularly development of that particular county. And it is similarly common across all other counties, including the only person we are sure that we will go into elect is the president. Reason being, he has dropped an olive branch for us, and we know why we are electing him again. We have our own reason, particularly the people from...
you yourself said that
yes,
the people we will decide.
Exactly. But the decision, actually that's a decision we have already, we are leaders on the ground, and we have already talked about it, and we have already agreed on whom we are going to elect, whether it is on what platform he will appear with. Dr. William Samoei Ruto will be our presidential candidate. That one we have no... But the other leaders who are trying to impress themselves on the president will not going to elect them. They will be elected by the people of that particular region. And therefore, anything like my brother has said, anything that people agree on in ODM and UDA at the moment with the current leadership may not basically viable in terms of putting forward or pushing forward or deciding the leadership of tomorrow.
And with all fairness, the president is the only one who has declared that I will be at the ballot. Of course, the other ones, the other group has to, decide who will be going against him. But picking from where Hassan has left, he has mentioned a very pertinent issue, including the matter of parties. We did see that ANC, which was headed by the current Prime Cabinet Secretary, did fold up. And we know very well when you have to, invite guests in your house, you have to make room. All right, let's first of all cross over to Naivasha, but you be marinating on that in regards to what happens to other parties and who is bringing what? Because ODM has already talked about the number 2 slot. So how is it going to be? Is it going to be business as usual, or we'll have to sit down again and decide? First of all, let's cross over to Naivasha. We are looking at the state of the nation. First and foremost, we are just wrapping up. Actually, what we have been discussing is exactly what is happening in Naivasha, the PG, the ODM versus Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group. But we'll be getting back to Naivasha. We did hear yesterday the 2 principals, that is Dr. Oburu Odinga and also Dr. William Ruto, talk about 2027, and they did hit the ground running. They have a 10-member committee that will be spearheading that. And of course, one thing that they mentioned is that they are working on a joint manifesto. Leo, parties, there are a number of parties that form the Kenya Kwanza coalition. And ODM, to be fair, is a newbie in the coalition. But from its demands, they've talked about we have the numbers and we also bring quality. What are we expecting here? Because they have already talked about we want the number 2 slot. That could scuttle the inner workings of UDA.
I think it may be a little premature to conclude that the number 2 slot goes to ODM in view of their demands. This is a negotiation like any other. It's a give and take. And the negotiation will involve not only the UDA side and with of course the former Prime Cabinet Secretary's interests taken into account.
Yes.
It will not only involve ODM, it will also involve other stakeholders. Like we have for I think the faction that is led by the Speaker of the National Assembly. That is, sorry, the name has just escaped my mind. But yeah, Ford Kenya.
Yes.
Ford Kenya and Wetangula's faction, they're also stakeholders, and there are many other stakeholders. And all of these people have an interest. But that is why parties go into negotiations way in advance, a year to the elections, so they can come up and agree on one front, agree on which positions go to who, and then move forward as a unit. And we saw that in the last elections when, and this is what makes the KK side, led by His Excellency, more credible than most parties. Other parties in the past, or other formations in the past, have always had pre-election pacts that they have broken or they have repudiated after being sworn in. We remember the famous MOU of 2002,
Okay. Kindly just hold the thought.
Yeah.
Empty up what you were talking about in regards to this ODM and Kenya Kwanza, because ODM had already, from what we've had, a number of ODM, even members of parliament, senators, and even governors have talked about what they want. They haven't preempted everything, but they have singled out the deputy president position.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Taking up from where we left off, yes, I mentioned that these are discussions, these are negotiations. There'll be a matter of a give and take on on the side of all stakeholders,
yep.
Not just ODM and UDA. There'll be other stakeholders who will have to be involved in the conversation, because we do know that, as we mentioned earlier, no single party or no duo in terms of parties can go into the elections alone and hope to win. There must be coalitions, and they must involve other stakeholders as well. Then I also mentioned, and which is very important, that one of the things that makes this particular President Ruto, trustworthy is the fact that he has kept his pre-election pacts, unlike his predecessors. And I was actually talking about, I was going back into history, talking about people like Mwai Kibaki, who reneged on the famous MOU pact that he had within the Rainbow Coalition,
yeah.
As soon as he was sworn in. And it ended up bringing chaos. Then we've seen the pact that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta had with William Ruto to do 10 and to give his support to William Ruto for another 10. The pact was broken, I think, after 2017, and it resulted in a lot of animus between the two of them. But William Ruto went into the elections of 2022 with a number of pacts with a number of people, and he kept every one of those pacts. I mean, when you look at the Speaker of the National Assembly, when you look at the Speaker of Senate, these are people who had supported him in exchange for the sinecures that they occupy at the moment. When you look at even cabinet secretaries like Aisha Jumwa, people didn't understand why the president gave a cabinet position, but it was in keeping with a pre-election pact that he had for her support. So across the board, he's kept his pre-election pacts, and it is quite evident that those who come to him now are coming with the same measure, with the same trust, with the same belief that any pact that they get into now, once they agree on the nitty-gritties, once the details are agreed upon, going into the elections of 2027, the president will keep his word should he win.
Picking from where Leo has left in regards to pact, we know very well many are broken. We have vehicles that we use, to go to the elections, and later on, we hear Mwamba is not speaking to Njue. We've talked about 30%. We talked about this. How can the two parties, that's the broad parties, that is a UDA and ODM, ensure that they do not run into the headwinds that we have seen when forming these political pacts?
Thank you once again. You've heard the reporter from Naivasha,
yes,
has actually mentioned a very critical item. I think that was I was so keen on that.
Yes,
where he was trying to mention as a concern that was brought by the parties on the changes of leadership. Once they take over the office in 2027, you see, when you put conditions on the changes of those particular, because appointments are there, but then how, if they're not performing, what happens? Or if they're performing and you feel like now they are going off from the ideologies that you had, what happens? Do you just kick them out because you've taken a position as the president, like you are now in control? So that is one of the areas that must be watertight, such that if you have to change a leader from the position, then there must be a board conversation. Like, the parties must sit down and agree that these are the genuine reasons why such a leader is being removed from the seat where they are. And the danger of that, again, is that in case, I think I wanted to refer to what my brother was talking about, that the president is known, probably known by the people.
Yes.
However, the support from the other regions are they going to be selected or are they going to be, elected by the people? Because these are the people who are going to now serve Kenyans. Now, if they don't perform and we have a watertight tool that will not allow the president to change, then what happens? Are Kenyans going to suffer out of that? That needs to be looked at. I know there are experts in terms of leadership engagements, and that needs to be looked at, and we find a seamless way of dealing with those who are non-performing when they're appointed into government. Because that is where now we've found many Kenyans suffering and many ministries failing to offer service to Kenyans because of poor leadership and poor wrong people being put there, and they stay for a year is too long for government to have a wrong person in a particular segment or in a particular ministry. So looking at it in that manner, I think that is a key area that needs to be looked at in as much as there is distribution of leadership and power, but that needs to be looked into on how to operationalize that particular aspect.
Doc, from what we heard yesterday, a joint manifesto, could this be the silver bullet going to 2027 election?
That could be, that's possible. But there's one thing that we need to understand. Manifestos and coalition agreements are done in the boardrooms. They are never political statements. And that's what do I mean? I mean, some political parties' funds could talk about what they desire or what they want. Like, for example, ODM can say we want the deputy president post slot.
Yes.
That's political statement. That is not a coalition agreement. Why? There are implications on every move. You know, every move you make, it has its own implication in the political arena. And I always tell people, politics is a game of chess. So you move, every step you move, you must know the consequences. And at times, happens when you want to kill your move in order for you to get a space to attack the main culprit. If that is the things they will likely to do at one point in time when we are getting closer to the election, and when all other interested parties who wants to join the coalition, who will be pulled to the coalition, will be on board, then we can say this particular time we can make this particular decision that will have influence on this. But by the time my friend Professor Kindiki will be told you will not be the deputy president, then Professor Kindiki comes from a region which is very fragile. A region that has been pronounced loudly as the mountain. And the mountain has been splitted by my friend Roku, who, according to him, he has splitted the mountain. And the purpose of him splitting the mountain is to make sure that he keeps his arena solid. And the arena he's keeping solid is Professor Kithure Kindiki as the deputy president. Therefore, I don't think if that is politically viable for the president. But again, you can always talk about your interest. You can always talk about what you want. But solidly, decisions will be made in the boardroom with a proper thoughts, where we know every politician, the move he makes, will be addressing the implication or the consequences that are likely to arise. And therefore, I think that we need to understand. But when we look at what is going on, it is the beginning, I get back to your question, it is the beginning of having a solid coalition as time goes on. Why? There will be back and forth. There will be discussions. There will be disagreement. There will be splitting. And when it comes to that particular issue, when someone talks about, for example, let's just talk about ODM. There are people who people want, but they are currently not visible. You can't hear their voice because they are not in position of power where they can express their concern. The intelligence of this country will going to confirm who the people want, and ODM is likely to pull those people on board in order for them to achieve the target they want, to be re-elected in the system and to be useful to the president. So the current dispensation of much of the agreements will be skeleton. The real coalition, signing of those coalitions and manifestos and agreements that parties will going to have will come the last minute when the lineups are set. And therefore, I tend to think at the moment is preliminary, and it is in order for them to have such a discussion, because some of the discussions you initiate will also open up your mind in terms of telling you what people think about what you are driving. And the moment you understand that, you'll be in a position to shape it towards the interest of the people. Don't forget, political parties and elections solely lies with the people on the ground.
All right.
And particularly, I don't think if the president should rely on mainly a lot, I don't think if politically he will rely mainly a lot on a governor, a senator, or a women rep. The people who decide who should be elected, both even including those quotas and the presidency, are the members of county assemblies and they are members of parliament for that constituency. Those are the ones at the grassroots level and at the constituency level that will solidly decide who becomes the leader of this country. And therefore, I don't think if the president will waste a lot of time on the governors or the high flyers of the current leadership, who they have lost grip of the ground and they are just enjoying themselves up here, which is okay. It is their time, they can enjoy. Okay. But I'm sure many Kenyans, including myself, our time is likely to come once we get to 2027. We may not enjoy the way they are doing it. We may enjoy with the ground.
All right. We are waiting. It's a wait-and-see game in regards to the Kenya Kwanza ODM coalition. But as I mentioned earlier on, we also looking at what the president said. At the end of July, the president in a state address did mention that we are now looking beyond the Vision 2030. We are now looking at Vision 2060. But you know, we are building from Vision 2030. Allow me to just point out 5 hits and 5 misses of the Vision 2030. Remember, Vision 2030 was inaugurated about 20 years ago, and pundits and even the Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat argued that we are about 65%. And this is why, let's first of all look at the major achievements. The political pillar milestone, that is the realization of the 2010 Constitution. That was one of the issues that was supposed to be sorted out or ironed out by the Vision 2030, and also biggest success under the political framework, expanding civil liberties and introducing devolution. Work in progress. Very quickly, the second one, infrastructure modernization. That has been, we are looking at SGR, Nairobi Expressway. We are also looking at the expansion of the Mombasa Port and also the Lapsset Corridor. Of course, there was also the modernization of the JKIA. We have an expert here who will be telling us more in regards to that. Technological and financial inclusion. We do remember, of course, now we have the Silicon Savannah. We have Konza Technopolis. We have M-Pesa has really penetrated in regards to that because it was one of the targeted blueprints. The energy grid expansion, geothermal and renewable energy development grew massively. We are looking at success rates. We have seen the government each and every month talking about rural electrification. We are tapping into wind. We are also tapping into geothermal and hydroelectric power. And then we have institutional alignment. Prior to 2008, the government ministry operated in, let's say, like silos. But now we have been able to successfully and in successful administration and counties a plan in a single national direction. And I think the president did mention yesterday in regards to the one account, the one government account. Let's look at some of the misses. The 10% growth illusion. The essence of the 2030 vision was that the economy had to grow at about a rate of about 10% so that we may achieve Vision 2030. But that we have never achieved. Instead, the economy has expanded roughly at the rate of between 5-6%, but in 2021 it was about 7.6. Then we have industrialization, manufacturing that was geared towards ensuring that we have aligned everything and so that be a percentage of our GDP rather than just growing. We are heavily dependent on imports. The gentleman here will tell us. Then the heavy debt trap. We are looking at 12 point, gentlemen? Maybe 12 point or 13?
Yes, 13.
We are hovering about there. And that is something that really needs to have a discussion in regards to that. Agriculture, agriculture was one of the anchor sectors intended to grow beyond the 5% per annum, but productivity has not quite gotten to there yet, and we'll commend the government in regards to the subsidized fertilizer, and of course the climate shock is something that we are also looking at. Then the last one I'm looking at is social sector strain. We are high youth unemployment, and this was exacerbated. You do remember when the Gen Z protested, and after that they said we need a lean government, we need to create more opportunities for our youth, and also we need to keep the cost of living down. Gentlemen, was just an overview of the Vision 2030. We do not know what the President blueprint in regards to the Vision 2060 is. And I will begin with you, Leo. One of the things that are going to be really looked into is, just like in Vision 2030, is massive infrastructure modernization. We have seen the SGR, we have seen the expressway, we've seen the thicker superhighway. Those all more or less were part of the Vision 2030. We had an opportunity to also expand our airports. We ran into Adani and the deal collapsed. There are expansions. We had plans to expand our fleets, also expand our coverage in regards to our airports. Where are we on this? And basing on what we have seen in Vision 2030, because we are still deeply entrenched in Vision 2030, how are we moving into Vision 2060 in regards to that? Infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. You raise very valid points. A lot of times, I think focus is given on when we talk about infrastructure. Focus has been put, inordinate focus has been put on the SGR, on the road infrastructure, and very little attention has been given to the expansion of our premier gateway, that is the airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Very little focus has also been given to the expansion of the hub carrier, which is Kenya Airways. Yet these two institutions are as critical as our road infrastructure. They are as critical as our rail infrastructure. Without them, you cannot advance your economic agenda. You cannot attain that growth rate of 10% that is so desirable, that was desirable under Vision 2030. And I'm sure we'll obtain even under Vision 2060. These are the misses. I think in the last dispensation, expansion of the airport infrastructure was key. And we started off, I think, around 2013, thereabouts, with a contract being awarded to a company that was subsequently cancelled under a cloud of circumstances, under a dark cloud. We don't know why it was cancelled. Then this administration then decided to take up the same airport expansion. This is because Jomo Kenyatta now is bursting at the seams. It's our premier gateway. It was built in 1978 to handle 2 million passengers. It's currently handling about 8 million passengers. So it is bursting at the seams. It cannot take on more. Yet our passengers coming in through that gateway keep growing, I think at the rate of more than 4% every year. So something has to be done. So the Adani was a first attempt, and because of a lot of controversy, especially due to the fact that Adani had been indicted in the US, the project had to be shelved on account of the public outcry that was there. And in my view, that outcry was largely driven by toxic politics. Now we have another project that is, I think a contract has now been awarded to, I think, a Chinese company now to expand the same airport, to do it in two phases. The first one is basically to expand the existing facilities so that they can take up an additional 4 million passengers to bring the total number to about 12 million passengers. Then, thereafter, a terminal is going to be put up, a brand new terminal, and a second runway and proper taxiways and that sort of thing are going to be put up in the second phase of this project to bring the total number of passengers that the airport can take in per annum to about 22 million passengers.
But is it really tenable?
Yes,
22 million?
22 million is
JKIA?
absolutely tenable. But what you do, you actually, you know, when you're planning airport infrastructure, you don't plan for the here and now. You plan for the future. You plan it long term. You plan it for about 10, 20, 25 years to come. You do your projections and you know that within this number of years, this is the capacity that we will have obtained by then. So that's why we plan for 22 million passengers, and we are growing. Ethiopia, just next door, who are more or less like us a few years ago, are now building a brand new facility. And guess what? They are planning for 100 million passengers. So 22 million passengers is really a drop in the ocean. It's really something we ought to have done 10 years ago. Now, talking about the fleet, we have Kenya Airways, a fleet. And yes, it is a national carrier. Yes, it is private. It's a privately owned, with the government being the largest shareholder. It's not government owned, it's just privately owned, but the government is a shareholder at 48.9% shareholding. But Kenya Airways is a critical national asset, and it has to be supported to grow. Like other flagship carriers, like other flag carriers in other jurisdictions, it is impossible for a carrier of that sort to operate without support from the government. It has to get support. Every successful national carrier, every successful legacy carrier all over the world, especially post-COVID, has had to succeed only by getting support from their governments. And I've given examples in the past of Emirates that got $4 billion post-COVID to survive. I've given examples of US carriers that had a total stipend of about $56 billion just to survive post-COVID. And Kenya Airways now needs about $2 billion basically to get it to where it needs to go. I am happy that this government, this administration, has seen the importance of supporting Kenya Airways. And they have taken one crucial step. Yes, yeah. There's one crucial step that they've taken. I think I saw it announced a couple of weeks ago that they are going to take up the legacy debt that has held Kenya Airways back for quite a number of years. The government is going to take it off the balance sheet, figure out how of sorting it out so that Kenya Airways now can recapitalize, can get the $2 billion that it needs from possibly from other investors so that it can be facilitated to grow. And the reason why it is important to support Kenya Airways at this critical time is you cannot have a great infrastructure like the brand new airport that is being proposed without a hub carrier. Yeah, those two have to grow in tandem. There's no point of building infrastructure without an airline that can bring in the numbers that you need to support that infrastructure. Okay. So those two have to grow in tandem.
Still on infrastructure, and it's a good thing that Kafafa has really expanded in regards to that, because we really need to modernize that, and that is something that ended up in Parliament. If you remember when the president said it had cancelled, the government had cancelled the Adani deal. Of course, there were a lot of cheers. In as much as we need infrastructure, we need to follow the rule of law, and also we don't have to have questionable characters. We have seen Konza, Tatu City, and also the extension of roads and infrastructure, as we've seen markets. I would like you to point out some of the things that needs to give and some of the things that we need to do post-2030 vision so that we may align with the 2060 vision. We do expect the president to speak a lot in regards to infrastructure, and you're also an expert on that as well.
Thank you, Troy. I think most people have never understood the word infrastructure and how we look at it. From the economic perspective, you will talk about an infrastructure as I think my brother Louis has mentioned about the returns in terms of numbers, throughput. Yes. But look at it this way. Now, how do we sustain that after the construction? Do we have, what are the legal instruments that enable the country and the taxpayers' money be used with a lot of, without losing it, where we are losing public money to foreign countries. These things are very critical, and I think that is one of the areas that brought Adani down in addition to, their integrity outside of the country. Now, the other thing that we also need to look at is that have we considered, I know the improvement of the JKIA is one of the critical, improvement that we are going to have. Yes. But have we considered our competitors across? We have Ethiopia, which is performing better than us as we stand today. Tanzania is actually on the right path. Actually, most of the traffic, goes to Tanzania currently. I think it's because of the status of the JKIA right now. Now, with all this put together, we need to look at our regional competitiveness,
yes,
so that when we make such decisions, then they will be able to succeed by 2060. And now that I want to link that now to what you are asking me about, the digital metropole that is coming up. Then we have the road networks, the port of Mombasa.
Yeah.
These are things that also needs to be put together, because they facilitate the growth of the economy. If you look at the Vision 2060, you will see manufacturing as industrialization as a key element that has been mentioned. Mm-hmm. But what supports industrialization, it's all about the infrastructure that you put into place. The government is an enabler of those who are coming to invest. Once you open up the roads, you open up facilities that support industrialization, then the investors can be able to come in. So once that is done, then we are going to have it in the best interest of the country. Mm. And the major concern, again, are on issues dealing with the connectivity between the country and the country as a whole. We have from north to south and across to the western side of the country. We are talking about a railway line that has been proposed also to be constructed. Yeah. Now, what is the value? Is it going to be passenger or is it going to be cargo? So that is the only attraction that would be there towards investing in that particular sector. The other one that we talked about is this Mau Summit Road. We are talking about the kind of traffic that will be going to Western Kenya and the Central and Rift Valley. Yep. The question we are asking, it's a toll road which nobody's talking about. And Kenyans are going to pay to use that particular infrastructure. The government needs to come up with alternative routes, as one of the to promote movement still, where those who are unable to pay, because most Kenyans are still living below some standard. Yeah. They need to have alternative routes where they can be able to use, so that they don't just depend on this particular, gateway or path that takes them to the other section. Mm-hmm. And these facilities that support, the main highway that is being constructed must be done in the right quality. Because that is another thing that we have also experienced. We are having, like this one, the link road that was done between Nairobi and Suswa towards, that is the southern part of Western. That road collapsed once, I think, in less than a year or so. So you realize that the vision is good, and it has a lot of input that needs to be, to be looked into by the experts. But the implementation, that is where I keep going back to. The implementation sometimes leads to loss of public funds, where it's implemented but not to the standards that are required. So a lot of structures need to be put into place to ensure that the implementation, whether it's a hub that we are talking about, like digital hub, it is the ports where we have the gateways, must be done in the right way. And this will help us to resolve things to do with unemployment. I think that was one of the, under the social pillar. We are talking about unemployment and jobs that dignify humanity. These are things that needs also to come with it. That now it has been issued to a national, it's called the Chinese contractor to carry out both probably design and the implementation. What is the role of the Kenyan people in the construction? Are we getting this money, and again we are expatriate? We are pushing back to the foreign countries. Yes. What are we doing in this? Because economy can only grow when there is money in circulation, and we allow that money to circulate. The minimum requirement is 40% as per the law, but can we push this so that we have it at probably 50% or 60%? Yes. So that we control the bigger percentage of this investment in our country. And by that, you'll ensure that the economy that we are talking about, 2060 vision talks about 6.7 to, this time it has given a range, which is a good thing.
Yes.
It was 10%, but now it has given between 7 and 10. It can only grow by those digits when we allow money to circulate within the country, whether from our local, local banking sector or a financial institution, or from the global aspects where money has been borrowed into this country. We must allow a bigger portion of that money to circulate within the country to allow that economy to grow. Otherwise, we will be having the same cycle of challenges that we are experiencing before, that the economy can only grow by less than the minimum required, 5%. At the next year, it goes to 4%. So that stability may not be there. So when we look at infrastructure, this is the key and the fundamental sector that needs to be, be considered to ensure that the vision is achieved within the period that it has been defined.
Yeah.
Because we say development always follows, growth always follows development. But in Kenya, it's the other way. You people get into a particular region, they stay there, then the infrastructure follows. It should be the other way for growth to happen. So government should prioritize expanding these facilities into the unentered areas, then that triggers development and growth in terms of the economy and also in terms of population. And I think that is the only way they can be able to get back, the returns.
Yeah, Doc, you're a politician as well as a governance expert, and the president didn't announce this. He will be announcing it tomorrow at the KICC. Just a day after they announced a pact with ODM, and people are reading politics into this. They're talking about, they're mixing it with the politics. You do remember Vision 2030, we didn't mix it with politics, but when it comes to 2060, we've had people talk about more or less is matters of re-election. I would like you to pick your mind in regards to that.
Yes, also a doctor.
Yes, also a doctor.
Yeah, thank you
can also touch on health as well.
There's one thing that I always want to talk about when we are talking about Vision 2030. My brothers, they are living in a very well-established setup, particularly when it comes to development, road network, water infrastructure, education, and quite a number of things.
Yes.
You remember when grade 11 or grade 10 was being admitted to schools, specific schools, some of the political quarters said Northern Kenyans are bringing their children here to learn. It is true we bring our children to learn because we are not at par with the development of this country. We are still at basic level. For example, we are lacking basic infrastructure. We are lacking water, which is a life-saving thing. We are still struggling with crippled health services, where we still have maternal child deaths. Even of recent, we had a mother who has passed on in Mandera, in Takaba, just because there was no anesthetic drugs. And the doctor could not operate on that mama and her baby, and the mother and the child, we lost both of them. So when our elites talk about issues related to airport expansions, major infrastructures like railways, we talk about basic things in life. And that is where politics does not play the role of development. And we need to demarcate separately, completely from politics as well as development plans for this country. Vision 2030 achieved significant number of issues in regards to infrastructure and connectivity, education. We know the CBC and other expansions on secondary school education. Of course, issues related to TVET. The health, this devolved government where health has been taken closer to the communities, where the health facilities are manned by county government.
Yes.
Though that is not something to celebrate because they couldn't manage the health facilities the way it is expected. I mean, the services have been taken down there. This was anchored on a plan that was made when people were in a very good sober mind, when they developed the Vision 2030 in 2008, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And however, all these expansions that has happened had its own weaknesses. For example, does the level of expansion of networks or infrastructure translate to industrialization? Does it translate to employment? Does it translate to improving the livelihood of a common Kenyan? So before we look at this major infrastructure, what are we supposed to do? The what is called the what is called Sustainable Development Goals, 17 SDGs goals comes to play. And some of the basic of things is just, instead of having a major airports where only a quarter, less than a quarter of this population are likely to benefit or use, regardless of whether the government gets return out of it, we will have expanded on a major dam that will create irrigation systems and people will be able to produce their own food. We are the only country who are proud of saying we are doing very well in agricultural production. And yet, every meal we consume, every food we eat, largely 80% of that food is imported. We are talking about farming, livestock and chicken and other animals. We are getting chicken from Chinese. We don't know how they are produced actually. They might be manufactured, not animals, the way animals grow. And therefore, the consequences of having such products from Brazil, China, and these other places is because you don't know that production, whether it has gone through the right channel. Maybe there's a lot of chemical and GMOs, and that's why we are battling with cancer cases in this country now. They have become too much. And therefore, are we looking at infrastructures that will going to impress the elites of this country, or we look at infrastructures that will enhance the livelihood and cost of living for the people who are the majority in this country? This is the things that I want to express in. Coming to your point, with a very brief touch on that, is that politics in the government structure or how government operates, ideally, I have repeatedly told many people that government do not operate on political platforms. Government operates on what is called a master plan and master budget for government projects. Now, in this plan, this used to be managed by a non-political wing of the government who was the head of the civil service. The accounting officer of every ministry, the principal secretaries, are they now the key determinants of government development agenda? No. This has been taken over by politicians. And therefore, why we are not able to achieve what we want is because politicians now will want to do things and things in favor of their own political mileage. And that's why you see, we talk about every government. You see, every president comes. He wants to come and do his own agenda. But it doesn't operate like that. We left having government agenda in 2013 when the devolution government began. And every government, county government, the county governor will want to show that he's doing development. He has no plan and clue of even what development, government development is all about. Presidency, the presidents will want to show what they have done. They will even go a mile, leaving projects that was spent on taxpayers' money and left outside. There are a lot of white elephant projects that has been left behind by previous governments. And now you want to start your own. Government does not operate that. Mine is to make sure that if we must move forward to Vision 2060, then, or 63, or whatever it is called, then the agenda should revolve around who is responsible for ensuring that Vision 2060 is realized without political interference and without political likely to cause confusion in the development agenda in this country.
All right, gentlemen, because of the interest of time, we do expect, nobody knows what the President will be talking about tomorrow for the 2060 vision, but based on what we've had, I've pointed out the hits and misses of Vision 2030. Based on Vision 30, headed towards 2060, and a number of things have changed, including technology. Leo, I would want to ask, what are some of the issues that the head of state should prioritize, or some of the sectors that the head of state should prioritize as we head towards 2030 first?
As we head towards 2030
yes.
or towards 2060?
Yes, so that we may build up on that.
I think a lot has been covered in terms of the Vision 2030. Of course, the missed opportunities, as you rightly pointed out, were the growth rate, the annual growth rate, which ought to have been at 10% of GDP. It's not too late. We can still tweak up that growth rate. One of the easiest ways is, of course, to develop our aviation infrastructure, as I've said. And just to correct Dr. Hassan, airport infrastructure, the aviation infrastructure is not elitist. It has never been elitist. It benefits every citizen. In the bellies of the cargoes of Kenya Airways planes, aircraft, chilled meat from Northeastern is carried in those bellies to the markets of the Middle East. It benefits its people. In the bellies of those aircraft, those Kenya Airways aircraft, that is, we have vegetables, fresh fruit and veggies, fresh produce basically. Meaning Mama Mboga, everyone, you know, Mama Mboga is growing her vegetables in Limuru, Kinangop and wherever, benefits because this is stuff that is carried in the bellies of those aircraft to the Middle East and to the markets of the EU. Aviation contributes about 6% of this country's GDP and growing. If we focus on it, it can contribute close to 15 to 20% of our GDP. It can enhance the growth of that GDP by that factor. So that's a low-hanging fruit that we ought to be focusing on.
All right.
Yeah, and then, of course, indebtedness. You mentioned we are heavily indebted. This administration is really trying to do a lot to ensure that we do not get into debt distress and into debt default.
Okay.
They've done what is called, of course, debt liability management, amongst many things.
Yeah. Engineer, what do you think the president should prioritize tomorrow?
Troy, I think there's so much probably that I wanted to
in a
nutshell.
Yes.
As I'll look at what the question that you've asked. One, the issue of misalignment and services not getting to the people is just the disconnect between the county governments and the national government.
Okay.
Yeah, based on prior to the 2010 constitution, it was about the national government. So what is running currently is that the national government has been doing some other functions within the counties. And what is expected is that the county government should align with Vision 2060 so that the achievements that are expected of the vision can also be implemented at the county level so that the citizens can be able to understand and also get the benefit of this vision.
Yes.
Most of our governors are not actually doing this, and that's why they have their own interest. Projects are done based on the interest, and therefore members of the county cannot benefit on that. I'm looking at the commitment from the government based on your question. I'm looking at the president to commit towards this vision and to ensure that when he comes out, it should be able to come out strongly on the implementation of this particular vision, so that in the middle term, we have our people who are suffering, and in terms of unemployment, in terms of healthcare, we find, the SHA in some counties, actually in some sub-counties, it is not working. It is true. It's working in a major, some of the areas, but there are those who are suffering and still paying in those counties. We have schools, primary schools without, electricity and all this. We need the government to do this in the middle term so that we can be able to achieve, some of the basics by 2030. Then as we roll into the 2060, then that commitment should be there, a clear commitment on that vision in terms of the implementation and policies that should be put into place when Brother Louis talks about, the throughput that goes through the airport. Yeah. My question has always been, where is the source of the throughput? If it is meat, is it meat from Kenya? If it is flour,
yes,
is it flour from Naivasha? Or there is an import that comes into this country, repackaged, then it goes out. That happens a lot, and we know if we don't have proper policies, this vision will just benefit a few, and the Kenyans will not benefit out of it.
Well said, well said. That has been engineer. Unfortunately, I've been,
before we leave, I think I need to say one thing.
Really?
That Vision
We have a commercial, yes.
Vision 2060,
Yes.
we need to rethink. Instead of doing multiple issues,
Yes.
let's do the basic things that changes the life of Kenyans.
All right.
That is what is very crucial for us. And we expect the president to talk about how we will harvest water in order for us to produce our own food.
All right.
This is the thing, how industrialization will be enhanced in order for our young people to get employed.
Very well.
All other things, those are side shows.
All right, all right.
Thank you.
Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert and also a politician. Just next to him, we have engineer Jackton Mwembe, who is an engineer, is also a governance expert, and we have a public policy analyst in Leo Kafafa and aviation expert as well. We have been more or less preempting President William Ruto's speech tomorrow, that is on the Vision 2060, but we have built on the Vision 2030 that, yes, has had its hits and also have had its misses. We now take a quick break.